Well, I'm just going to hit the go live and see what happens. Mute my mic. What's up, cats? Good to have all the returning crew again. We see Hustle Mando. We see Dale, Christina. You guys are regulars, man. We love having you. Give us a little holler if you can hear us. Or you can hear me. No word yet. Just want to make sure everybody can hear us first. Can everybody hear Jedi Jive? Hey, there he is. Luke Skywalker. Ciao. Good, guys. I'm glad you can hear. I'm glad we have the returning casting crew again. We're going to have John and Dylan. Dylan's going to be a little delayed. He's where's he at? He's coming in a little bit later. But we got John, we got Jenny, and we're going to have Dylan in a few minutes. We're going to talk some The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. As I said last week, I keep abbreviating it to Falcon and Winter Soldier. It sounds better. It's quicker. I kind of wish it just was that. But The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, we got a lot to talk about. All right, Jonathan Hamilton. Is that actually... We got a bunch of people here already. You know what? We're going to go live. Why wait? It's 3:02. Fuck it. We'll go live. Do it live. What's up, everybody? Falcon. Let us know if you can hear John and Jenny. John and Jenny,
Hey guys.
What's up?
we will know if the chat can hear you in a minute.
What do we got here?
We got Hustle
Falcon?
Mando.
Winter
We got
Falcon.
Dale. We got Christina. We got Luca. In the house. Trey doesn't know. David Palmer. On your left, buddy.
Everybody's in the house. Everybody's here. Who? Wait. Oh well.
Yeah, I guess-
We have one question right there.
I guess
don't
we
know
can
if
talk
Yeah,
about
we
that.
can
Right
answer
into
that
it.
one.
Yeah, it was in the
Wanna go right
thumbnail.
into it.
All right, good. Everybody is heard. We are good to go.
Let's go.
Let's turn down this music a little bit. Hey, everybody. Glad you guys are back. Welcome back to Jedi Jive. Welcome back to Jedi Jive number 6. We've done this 6 weeks in a row now. I'm excited about
Yeah,
that.
it's
because
crazy.
I
It doesn't
was,
feel like 6 weeks.
It doesn't, right? It's WandaVision was definitely, it went by, it came and went like that. But I'm super excited that Marvel's got stuff coming out basically every Friday now. I mean, we're gonna have breaks in there. We're gonna have Bad Batch, Star Wars. Things are gonna move around a little bit this year, but in general, I just look
Batch.
forward to Fridays and getting new content. And Jenny, you can probably you can agree with me on this. Like when we were born in the early 80s and grew up in the 90s, so like we were used to having like that. When we were kids, like our family still gathered around the TV on like a certain day to watch a certain show. Like for us, it was
100%. Yeah.
we watched like Avonlea and like Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman, and
Oh, there's
Or a
a new
bunch
one.
of-
There's
The
a new
Cosby
Superman.
Show
Yeah.
is, sorry to say, like
I
our
thought it
big
was.
yeah,
thing.
the Cosby Show. Yeah, we watched all
The
our
Cosby
family
Show.
would like gather around the TV on Sundays, and we would watch our you'd look forward every week to something, and I feel like that's coming back a little bit with this Marvel format. They've got.
Mm.
I would
The-
say
the
streaming
week-
in general.
Yeah,
Streaming,
Disney
like,
Plus
just
is really.
has-
I mean, like I still like Netflix. Like Cobra Kai was awesome. I love
Oh
doing
my God,
reactions
yeah.
to that. It's just it's
Oh.
been in general. You're right. Streaming in general has been like just a blessing, especially during COVID, because we've been able to just consume. It's been a bummer not being able to go to movie theaters and
Yeah.
hang out with your friends.
They're
but,
opening
like,
back up though, at least in our area.
yeah, but like with this, like we're zooming right now. We're talking about like our weekly show that we watch, and it seems like it's. Like that format has really brought back that like we're gathering around and then having little water cooler chats afterwards like people would at work, and
Yeah.
that's that whole
And it's so funny because like we're on the East Coast, so these drop at 3 a.m. for us, and we're
Oh,
all
Brutal.
like, I drive to Mike's house at 2:30 in the morning, and then drive home at like 4:30 in the morning so that we can do this. But it is still event TV for us. Like this is the best part of our week. We
Yeah.
really look forward to these.
yeah. No,
yeah,
I-
definitely.
same for
Somebody
me.
Jay Black says, have you all seen? Oh, I'm sorry, it's David. Anyone getting Wilson volleyball vibes from the Flagmaster mask? Yeah, that's definitely another thing.
Wilson!
Jenny, you mentioned though
from,
that like there's also that like
Absolutely, right
rape
here.
culture, like women's group that
Yeah,
has
there's
the-
the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls is a huge movement, and it's not quite the same. It's directly over the mouth in that movement, but that is a red handprint on the face as well, and that's a very
Yeah.
visible sort of social justice movement.
So yeah, definitely some
But yeah.
similarities, but in general, yeah, I agree. Like the hand over the face is it's something we've seen before.
It definitely has like social, it has like recognizable social connotations. Or
David
social,
Palmer says bogus cap suit is like a discount Halloween costume. Yeah, I've heard multiple. I heard John Campia say it. I heard multiple people refer to him as the Walmart cap, which
He is Walmart cap.
yeah.
He's
And it's
so
true.
true.
Like
For
they
sure.
even made it like in addition to kind of like his like stupid little smirk that he has. Like you can see
like he
that
winked.
the mask is like crushing his ears, so they're like sticking out. He just looks.
Yeah, his
dopey.
face is all like, he has like smoosh
Yeah.
face. Yeah.
I it's definitely intentional. I don't, I'm pretty sure that guy's a handsome dude in real life, and it's
Yeah,
it's
that's
Kurt
Kurt
Russell's
Russell's
right?
son.
Yeah,
He's
so,
the sort of Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn.
Yeah.
They're both like notoriously good looking.
so definitely not a dork in real life, but definitely they played up the like, who is this bozo?
Off-brand cap.
Off-brand cap. Yeah, this is like the cap you get off Wish.com, basically.
Yeah.
He's
For
the
sure.
generic brand cap. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, it's interesting though. We got briefly, we got a quick little view of him, so obviously we're gonna get more of him in the next episode. But one of the
Yeah.
first things we realized at the end was like, whoa, Bucky and Sam never crossed paths in the first episode.
Yeah.
So we're looking at a 6-episode show where it's a buddy cop show, and their relationship is
Yeah.
gonna be important, but they didn't interact once, and they didn't need to because their individual storylines were so engrossing that it was. I wasn't too let down by the fact that we didn't get that buddy cop thing right off the bat. So It worked that way.
I agree. I mean, and they did allude to the fact that Bucky is intentionally dodging Sam's calls.
Yeah.
So we have some idea of like the ongoing interaction or connection between the two of them, but it really created space to dive into the psychological landscape and what's going on, both sort of personally and socially. For both of these dudes, which was, I read it was an amazing article. It was a fantastic, well-written article in the LA Times that came out yesterday. That was sort of about the structure of the show and how they created that. And they talked about the fact that they're really not differentiating between screens at this point, like cinema, TV, computer. They're blurring those lines, but that they're basically creating what they would think of. Kevin Feige wants them to create what they would think of as a Marvel movie within each episode. And yet, because it's TV and because we have like 6 hours, they can actually dive into the personal depth of each character the way you usually do in episodic TV. So it's like cinema quality with, TV psychology, which is great. I love it.
Yeah, and we definitely noticed that too, how like particularly that opening sequence, wow, can I just say wow, like that was not only movie level budget clearly, but like damn, that was basically a movie. That was cinematic and then some. That was one of the better action sequences we've seen since Endgame, right? I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah,
that was great.
Not that WandaVision didn't have great special effects and all that, but it wasn't necessarily like, aside from like Vision fighting Vision and a couple things here and there wasn't much stuff, I mean, that was special effects, but in general, just like the action we saw here was like top notch.
Yeah.
And
there's gonna be some great scenes.
Jenny,
I'm guessing we're already gonna have, I mean, this was obviously the first episode had a great like aerial combat scene, but I feel like we're probably gonna get a couple of those, and it's gonna be really cool. So.
Yeah, Jenny had pointed out that it was similar to like flying into the trench in Star Wars, where they came in and like turned into the canyon, and all of a sudden she's like, "This is like X-wings and TIE fighters, basically."
Like those guys in their flying squirrel suits looked exactly like they were just a bunch of.
Wingsuits are crazy. Those are real things. By the way.
Yeah. Oh yeah. A lot of people pointed out that we missed the fact that was Batroc the Leaper from Winter Soldier, and we was just like, and it's George St. Pierre, right? The MMA guy. So that's We definitely, Jenny was like, oh, this is just some French terrorist.
Yeah, and he's Algerian, I think, which they speak French. It's the official language in Algeria. But so he's North African. And North African terrorist group.
Jay Black says, I'm assuming the new shield is not vibranium like in the comics. I think there's actually a lot to talk about the shield, because not only is it possible that it's not vibranium, but some people have pointed out that, Sam keeps saying that line like it feels like it's somebody else's. And then Cap says it isn't. And that that there's like notches in the shield that weren't there before.
Yeah, it's not the same one.
It's not the
Juan,
same shield.
You picked up on this in your video. You were like, that doesn't look the same.
Yeah.
I hadn't noticed that. But I mean, we're talking about how he has this Walmart suit, this like knockoff suit. Does he also have a knockoff shield? Like, what's the deal with it?
Somebody also...
that thing in WandaVision where Hayward was like, we're not going to give you $3 billion worth of vibranium. Like, well, the shield is less than that, but that's like a super valuable commodity, both in terms of like the value of vibranium and also in terms of its symbolism.
Yeah.
So
the
like,
one
what's
that
up
US
with Cap's shield?
The one that US fake bogus Cap was holding at the end was the one with the notches in it, though. So we're assuming they took the one that Sam donated to the museum and just like gave it to him.
No, they screwed him over,
which is such a bullshit move. Yeah,
they completely.
Either way,
him.
They screwed him over. Whether
it's like,
that's
I just donated that
$3
billion shield to
and
give it away.
Whoever the director guy, I think it was, I can't remember the guy's position, but he was like, "You made the right choice."
Yeah. So S. Marie brings up a point here. Yeah, that it got
the shield off.
The shield got destroyed in Endgame by Thanos. It was like basically cut in half. So like, what shield is Cap coming back with?
Steve had the one that, like, he time traveled back. So, I mean,
it's possible if you're Captain America, they have a couple backup shields. Let's be honest. But like, they never really specify that. But also, it's possible that there's some time travel. Maybe when Sam is saying the line, it feels like it's somebody else's, and Cap's like, maybe there is more to that. Maybe Cap knows something that Sam doesn't. Like, that is Sam's shield from the future, and it somehow is being returned to him. Or there's all types of possibilities like that.
Mm-hmm.
But
that made me think. I got
I wouldn't be comfortable speculating or theorizing about any particular thing at this point because, like, I don't have enough information.
Yeah, it's Mephisto's shield. Yeah,
I don't want to go.
The shield is Mephisto.
On this, right?
It
like,
is Mephisto.
I feel like there are multiple possibilities that are all valid, and I don't want to like attach myself to one theory yet. But I think like it's probably safe to say there's something hinky about this shield situation, and that we're gonna learn more about that as the series progresses.
Yeah, and J.A. Black also pointed out the character Isaiah Bradley, who's in the comics.
That's what I was gonna say.
Who's like,
very nice.
Cap finds out that they were basically experimenting serum on only black people, right? And that,
there is
that's based on like things like the Tuskegee syphilis experiment. I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but it's something that happened where they wanted to study, the US government wanted to study the effects of long-term syphilis. So they did this experiment where they basically put up these posters in Black communities that were like, join a study, get treated. And they took people who were suffering from syphilis and didn't treat them. They told them they were treating them and then they didn't treat them and they injected them with all kinds of whatever. And they only used Black people from poor communities who didn't really have the means or the resources to fight back.
Yeah.
And this is a notorious, and this is not a singular episode, like experimenting on marginalized populations is something that the US government has engaged in for a long time. So that has historical roots. And, you know, I did read an article where Malcolm Spellman, the creator and head writer of the show, he was like, don't think too much about the origin story, the comic book origins. He was like, we're not going to do too much about comic book origins. So I'm hesitant to like, in regards to the show, he just said we're not going to be focusing as much on like the comic book origins. Don't get obsessed with that. But he did also say I'm not shying away from like the racial and political overtones. He himself is a Black man, and he's like, I'm not going to come to a television show in 2021 and be less than my whole self. I'm going to bring all that experience.
There's definitely something with a serum, a new serum, or an old serum from the past that was found again.
They're going to have to address that and how US Agent just came out of nowhere, and you know they're going to have to address it for sure.
That
but also
and the Flag Smasher guy who had the
because we pointed that out, 100% looked enhanced because she punched Torres and
he jumped down a good ways. Most people's ankles would be broken.
Yeah, our first reaction was like, is she like a Winter Soldier type
situation? This is the woman. They've cast a female actor, right, to play the head of the Flag Smasher.
Yeah, the same girl that's Enfys Nest in Solo, right?
And we didn't see anyone's face. They had, this person. They had the Flag Smasher.
She's been in the trailers though. We've seen her on that.
We've seen her face in no, I just mean in the episode. We didn't see the face of whoever that enhanced person was. So that could be her. We don't know if it's what gender or identity this person has.
I don't believe it's her.
Okay. This could just be like they have their own super soldier. They have their own like Winter Soldier type.
Christina says the Flag Smashers are enhanced individuals, so it's not just that one. They're all going to be super strong then.
Well, there's going to be a group, but then a lot of them, there's going to be just random people who joined like that. Oh God, Sam's friend. I forget the guy's name off the top of my head now. He was talking to him in the episode. Yeah.
Torres.
So yes,
right?
yes. And he you know how he kind of just walked in because it's like a kind of a cult type thing. So there are people that aren't enhanced, but yes.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then going back to the Isaiah Bradley thing, just to say like in general, I think that's great because the racial sort of storyline that they're putting on in this, it matches that, it fits that. That would make sense for them to have a to connect into the racial storylines that they're putting in here.
For sure. I think that's coming. Yeah, I can definitely. I mean, there is an actor that we don't know whose role it exactly is. And he is. Let me see. I'll look it up. You guys can keep going. I'll look it up.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions about that. Like what obviously they are enhanced people or they have enhanced assets, but like how that's going to play in is something that I'm curious about.
Yeah.
And also the ideology around that group, because they've mentioned things that are very deliberately tied to the real world, our current situation, like online conspiracy theories and things like that. And they talked about thinking the world was better during the blip, but unlike, this is sort of a flipping the script on the actual real world scenario, which is that I guess the Flag Smashers want open borders. They prefer the sort of cooperative open borders, nationless world, which is, I'm not saying one's good or the other's bad. That sort of flips the script on our close our borders thing that's going on in the US right now and in a lot of countries. but it also makes me think of like 1984, which is it's a dystopian post-apocalyptic novel where there's like one world nation. Right. And that hasn't led to like love and peace and cooperation. That's led to like authoritarianism and a police state. And
that's what it seems like they're heading towards a little bit with the U.S. agent thing. So yeah, I found the actor, by the way. So his name is Clay Bennett. He's a black actor, and his role was kind of in mystery right now. There is a set picture of him with Anthony Mack and Sebastian Stan, and he had, like how they have those big coats to cover their costumes. This guy's right next to him wearing one of those. So I think he is going to be, someone from the comics. And so there is that whole storyline like we were just talking about with the whole, the first Black Captain America is Isaiah Bradley. I don't know if it's going to be him or if it's going to be another character, but I think they are going to do that storyline. Yeah. I think there is going to be a serum, something with an old serum coming back or a new serum.
Yeah, it's going to be a new serum for sure.
So it might not follow the storyline of the comics because, again, I'm taking Malcolm Spellman's word for it. I'm not going to obsess about comic book origins, but it seems like that character might come in some new context or some. Right.
No, I agree. I could see how that could.
Devontae Smith had said the shield in the comics was vibranium and adamantium combination. So that's, I mean, we haven't been introduced to any X-Men or Wolverine or anything, and they haven't mentioned adamantium yet in the MCU. So they're going to have to eventually if they're bringing Wolverine in. So I don't think they're going to talk about that so much in regards to the shield, though. I think they would probably just leave it as vibranium. And then David Palmer says calling it Old Man Cap will make an appearance. We know we heard his voice at the very first line in the show, and Sam's like picking up the shield and getting dressed to go honor Cap or whatever he's doing. And you hear that line from Endgame when he says
there was an interview, I can't remember which publication this was in, but that I read this week that kind of debunked the Chris Evans thing. Kevin Feige was like, if Chris is coming, it's news to me. And, there were a couple, and Sebastian Stan and Anthony Mackie both said, well, look, we haven't heard anything of the kind, but we don't know anything. It's super secret. So don't take our word for anything. But I wonder, there was this rumor that
I think Feige said something too.
Yeah. Well, Kevin Feige was like, look, I never say no because in the MCU, all things are possible. But he was like, if it's already happening, it's news to me. I'm wondering if this contract that Evans allegedly signed could have been something as simple as still image, photo images, because we have seen the picture of Cap and we have heard his or whatever,
it was reported by credible sources, but then again, I mean, you never know with these type of things. So
is Cap on the moon, says David. Are we just supposed to assume basically
Cap on the moon?
Cap is alive, but that Sam and Bucky and
come from literally where did this rumor
he was on the moon from? He was on the moon. There's an Avengers game, a video game that came out last
year. Nick Fury is up in space. Why can't
the moon? That was literally so I was like, is that a reference to that? What?
Yeah. There was this show, it was not a good show, guys, but there was this show Inhumans that lasted only one season. And
watch it.
It's not really worth it.
I think they're ignoring it and rebooting it.
I think eventually. So. Of all the many shows that Marvel Television did, that's the one that has not only scrap that, but that's the one that has no Easter eggs. It doesn't really connect.
I heard it's just really bad, and it was really rushed too. It was
so weird. It was just a weird show. It was just not good.
I haven't even checked it out.
The only reason I mention this is because it's funny. I keep hearing this thing about Cap on the Moon, and in that show, there's this colony of Inhumans who have a hidden city on the moon that human technology can't detect. And I keep hearing this weird theory, and I'm like, where did this come from, guy? What is that?
Well, anyway, regardless, are we supposed to assume that Cap is alive, but that Sam and Bucky and Rhodey and them are basically just letting him be
he's
at peace?
Around.
They're not bothering him.
I don't think he's gonna.
But they're making the general public assume that he died and that he died in the final battle. And because we already discussed about how when Cap came back and he was basically, and Sam was like, you want to talk about it? And he was straight up like, nope, don't want to tell you about it. Nope.
Yeah.
And so he's made an effort to keep his life secret. And
I mean, regardless of whether he is technically alive or not, he officially retired.
I'm
definitively retired.
I'm going to go out on a limb and just say I think he's coming. He's going to show up.
There is a spot for him to show up, but I mean, I don't know if it's going to be for this show.
What about though if U.S. Agent is tainting his legacy though? At some point, you're gonna want to get the real Steve Rogers to be like, "This isn't what I'm about."
No, he wants Sam to do it.
I think it's more likely
that Sam's journey.
Falcon has to be that. Falcon has to be the person to say that.
Mm-hmm. For
to be
sure.
like, this
Yep.
isn't what Steve wanted,
Yes.
because
Yeah.
it works on so many levels. It's not just that Steve chose him, which Steve did. Steve chose him.
Yeah.
It's not just about that. I mean, we've talked multiple times, like 3 weeks in a row, I have mentioned this biblical story about Jacob wrestling with the angel. He's given a responsibility. He says, I don't want it. I don't want to be the soldier of God, whatever it is, and has to physically wrestle an angel to accept the responsibility that is in this story, like God given. So in this context, it's like the superhero, not God, but like, a man like a god, Captain America, Steve Rogers, gave him this responsibility. He doesn't want it. He doesn't feel like it's his. And that line you mentioned, Mike, which they said twice, it feels like it belongs to someone else. To me, that's just like he's not ready to embody, to like inhabit his responsibility and to take on that mantle, that role. So it's both like the personal thing of like him, getting over any insecurities and any reticent feelings he has about Steve and like accepting his role. But there is also absolutely a racial overtone to that as well, which is that
No,
he's being abused by his own country. His sister can't get a loan.
Yep.
It turns out that a lot of the Avengers were basically unpaid interns for Tony Stark. He doesn't have any money. He's put his life on the line repeatedly in these insane situations. He's fought aliens and gods, and he has nothing to show for it. His family is being treated terribly. There are these people who wish that everyone who disappeared had stayed disappeared. So he's not being treated well. And yet he has to somehow accept responsibility of fighting for the man, of fighting for the same government that is oppressing him.
Yeah.
And also being a symbol of that government, like also serving as a symbol of like American exceptionalism. And it made me think about, this is true in real life, the population per capita that has the highest rate of enlistment in the US military is Native Americans. This is surprising to a lot of people, but like as a percentage of the population, the group that enlists the most in the armed services is Native Americans. And if you go to any powwow, there is always a separate special entry for veterans where they are honored. And it's a huge thing. And you think like, wow, that's surprising considering what that population has been through and continues to go through. So the same is true for Sam. Like, how do you accept this mantle of responsibility that is like personal to you on a deep level, but also is like a symbol of something that needs reform or that needs to change?
There's actually like there's a meta component to that, in that it goes deeper, in that it's not just Sam that has to accept his position as Captain America, but Marvel has to acknowledge to themselves, we have to convince the audience that they have to accept Sam as Captain America now. So like it's now the burden is also on Marvel and us to accept him. And that's a huge role to fill, not just for Sam, but for for us to accept him
I
as
wonder
well.
if
And to
I wonder if
convince
they'll
America
do like
that
a
like
trilogy.
it's ready for a black Captain America.
And Jay has pointed out that in the comics,
pointed out,
that Torres gets the Falcon, and so it's like it's a room for that now, is because if this ends up with Sam being the new Captain America,
I think he's gonna give the
does
Falcon
Torres
mantle.
become Falcon? That would be great.
That'd be
Then
great.
there's also, we're talking about serum and stuff, because we have to acknowledge the fact that like Sam got beat up by Ant-Man basically.
Yeah.
And Sam is not a superpowered enhanced
He's
individual. Not. Do we have to make Sam enhanced in order for him to reach that Captain America level that we're going to accept him as? Like, well, if he doesn't have a Falcon suit, is he really just an ordinary military guy who can
I'm gonna be honest,
I
think
military training and a fancy, we talked about this before when I was talking about different types of Avengers, different types of powered people.
Yeah.
And like they're two different types. Like Sam currently is relying entirely on what we can assume is Stark technology. And he has, military combat training, but he's a human dude with a fancy suit. So like,
So okay, so I think like I think it'd be better for his character if he didn't end up having the serum, and it was like, oh, he's Captain America and he doesn't need a serum. Like, he's great. Yeah. But I feel like they're just gonna, they're probably gonna give him a serum.
Yeah, I mean, that would help to like help the believability of the okay, he can kick anybody's ass. It's not just like a. But also at the same time,
he was badass in that scene, though.
You don't want to have them rely on like, oh, Sam isn't capable of being super without giving him super juice. It's that kind of undercuts the racial aspect of it, of being like he's he's like that. The banker's first instinct was to be like, "Oh, were you on a football team?" As in, like the only reason he could think of a famous black person was if he was an athlete.
It was so painful to watch. That scene was
that
just
scene
like,
was
ooh,
tough.
Yeah.
that was rough.
And also, some people have pointed out, why doesn't he just ask Pepper Potts for money? And it's like, well, because pride. Because he's proud of, most people wouldn't necessarily.
Sam's not that type of dude.
Yeah.
Sam's not that type of dude. Yeah,
and of course, Pepper would give him money to fix his boat in a second, but they want to be self-reliable. And I think that's another thing that makes it very like, maybe they shouldn't give him enhancements.
Well, and his sister has that pride too. So.
Yeah. But also, at the same time, Steve Rogers was enhanced, but also he spent most of his time trying not to get into a fight, trying to avoid having, conflicts, making it so that like it's more of a peacekeeping thing than it is of like, all right, let's go kill some people. Like obviously Captain America has a high body count. Like they've done that. He killed people, mostly Nazis, thank God.
I was gonna say he killed Nazis. It's like
as long as you're killing Nazis, that's not murder. Yeah, but still. At the same time, like Steve Rogers was a peaceful guy, so like Sam doesn't necessarily need to have like super the figurehead of the like peacekeeping and the symbolism of just being like a good person in general.
There's a real tension between the actual job of Captain America as we know him, which is like it's peacekeeping, but he has to go fight a lot of battles. He has to protect and defend and serve. That's like the job description as we've known it, and then the symbolism of that character, the like it's Uncle Sam, literally they said Uncle Sam.
Hold the phone, John.
And I was
Dylan,
like,
Dylan's in chat.
I didn't want to interrupt, but Dylan can't make it tonight, today, guys. Sorry about that.
Hey, Dylan.
Well, he's in the chat if you want to throw him
You're
a
too
quick
good
hi,
for us.
but
I get it. It's all good.
Yeah, Dylan's got more important things to do than this nonsense.
Yeah.
We, however, do not. This is the only thing.
Jenny David points out, why was Sam repairing Red Wing in the cafe in front of everyone? Yeah, that was our first, like, just casually, like.
I thought it was kind of cool, though, because I didn't think he worked on his own tech.
They're in Libya, too, right? Or, like, nearby, right?
No, they're in Tunisia.
Oh, that's right. They couldn't. Yeah. But even still, it was like. Yeah, that did seem kind of like, dude, like, you can't just do that out in the open.
I thought it was cool because I didn't think he worked on his own tech.
Yeah.
So
somebody pointed out that they need to be careful with that, though, because you don't want to just make Sam an overnight electrical engineer like Ant-Man or whatever.
Right. I mean, we just never seen that, so that's why I was like,
I do believe that he can, like, do some, maybe some slight modifications or some,
right, because he had the original suit from, like, Winter Soldier, like.
Well,
he's not
he
just
got
Tony
the suit
Stark
from the
all of a sudden,
army. Like, he had the suit. He was like a paratrooper. He was some kind of like pararescuer. And the reason he had the suit in the first place was that it was like army issue. Right. And I think it's been souped up with a lot of Stark technology now. But he probably has some field experience, some like field triage experience.
Yeah, well, he's working for the Air Force now, I guess. Is that
right?
That seems.
All right, so wait a minute, guys. We've basically spent like a half hour talking about Sam. Like, let's get to some Bucky stuff because I'm gonna be perfectly honest. After this first episode, I'm like way more excited for Bucky than anything.
Bucky was really great.
I feel like
I don't know. We didn't really say this, but like, this show, like this episode was killer. Yeah, I loved it. It was such a great first episode for a show like this. Yeah, and I don't want to compare it, but. This was a better first episode. I am really on board
definitely, but like the pilot to WandaVision, people weren't ready for it yet necessarily. And besides, because there was so much mystery woven into there and not knowing what was going on, it was kind of hard to put give any sort of assessment of it without being like, all right, I need to see more. But this, like we predicted, is definitely way more grounded and straightforward in terms of just like giving you the information you need. Because we're not coming out of this episode with like these like burning questions of like we're just ready to see more happening? Essentially. Yeah.
Like now we know exactly what the scenario is.
Can we talk about one thing? I want to talk about one thing about Sam.
Yeah.
One thing about Sam, that Rhodey scene, that scene with him with Rhodey was.
We love Rhodey, and we've also pointed out
I get like a sense of well-being when I see Don Cheadle. Like I just feel like everything's gonna be okay when Don Cheadle comes on screen. I love him so much.
And I just put the tank down in front of him, and I was like, "Boom! You looking for this?" Remember that line? Yeah. No, I think hopefully that's not the only Rhodey scene, but I have a feeling that's probably it for Don Cheadle.
It might be.
Oh, you do think it's it?
Yeah. I mean, maybe he'll come back in like briefly but. I kind of get the feeling that was because we were like hoping to see him, and then like
I don't think it'll be
we
in
got
the
him right off
armor.
the bat.
I don't
But
think we're gonna see War Machine, but we might see like I don't know,
think
maybe
we'll
that
see
was
him
it.
again,
But
though.
like I think we're just gonna see Rhodey, not like War Machine in this context.
Yeah.
So,
Or I mean like Avengers in any capacity, if they're gonna need help in a battle of some kind, like it's not like the
I mean, they
Avengers.
got Bucky. I don't think.
Yeah.
so.
Well, anyway, like let's talk about
Other-
Bucky because like this.
Yes, let's move on.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
The Bucky stuff was heavy. And
Oof.
heavy and heady, like very much, and like I felt that way before they even dropped that moment on us when you see
Oh my God.
Yori's son
Yeah.
is the guy that Bucky killed, and if you, in Jenny and our reaction, I was cracking up seeing how like we both at the same time were like, yeah,
we looked at each other with like wide eyes. That was
and then it immediately just got so much heavier because of that, and that like. That
and darker and like
I thought that guy was
messy.
War Friend. That's what I thought originally.
Oh
But-
yeah, that
you
would have
said
made
that.
sense because the date was like, oh yeah, you were like my dad would say something like that, and she was like, wait a minute, how old are you?
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yori
no,
could be like 85 years old and wouldn't be that much
Right.
younger than Bucky, but yeah, that would have been
but
cool
no,
if they knew
I
each
think
other.
He's hanging out.
They
I don't
did
know
leave
if
it
it's a
open at
guilt
first
thing.
though. They didn't explain it because they they show him kind of just show up and be like, "Hey, I thought we were doing lunch today." So you kind of just assume like, "Oh, it's just some old man he befriended and he's just trying to be nice or whatever." You don't really.
That's what I. Well, that's what I thought,
Yeah.
but then I thought it was like, oh, well, he could be maybe.
But they do they
friend,
do
but
show
then
like
it's
he
like,
chases Bucky chases him down in an alley and he's like, "Come on, what if I buy?" And the guy reluctantly is like, "All right, fine, but no talking." Like so it seems like they showed how Bucky is like chasing after this guy. Like the guy's not necessarily calling Bucky and being like, "Hey man, want to hang out?"
Right.
Like
They're
because
really hitting Gen Z hard.
Yeah, they
too, with
pointed
the
out
script.
how
Because
Sam
the guy
is
was like, "I'm unique, like Monique, but with a U," and
Oh god.
Bucky's
Yeah.
like, and then
Yeah.
the thing with like the online dating, he's
Yeah.
like, it's a lot.
That's
All
right.
these pictures are weird.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. And
They're definitely getting some comic relief out of like his old manness in the face.
Yeah.
of
No,
a
that
lot
was.
of,
I
like,
love that stuff. That was
hipster
amazing.
technology.
they did
That was
specify,
hilarious.
like the psychiatrist says, like you're ignoring texts from Sam, like when she's reading his phone stuff. So it's like, okay, so Sam is hitting Bucky up and Bucky's ignoring it, and Bucky's chasing after this old man. So it's basically like Bucky is prioritizing his, as Jenny said, penance.
Yeah.
He's, atoning for his sins. He's feeling guilt. He's trying to deal with all of that, and that's his priority right now. His relationship with Sam isn't.
The really sort of twisted thing about that dynamic, the him and his therapist dynamic, is that on the surface of things, he's doing a version of 12th step. Like he's making amends, which is I think step number 4. But like that is a recognized version of like addiction recovery. And so in his case, it's brainwashing recovery. But he's actually supposed to be making amends. But instead of making amends, where like he apologizes to the people he's hurt, his version of making amends is to like confront his co-conspirators or to confront evil that he's participated in himself. So he's not really making amends in the 12-step version.
I think he will.
He's just soothing his own guilt. So that's not healthy. 12
Well,
steps
no,
is
wait
not
a minute,
recommended,
because Bucky straight up ditched his date. He just got up and left and went straight to the old man's house, and that's the last we see of Bucky. So we're assuming that he is telling the old man about having killed his son. Like now,
I didn't think that.
Why else would he just show up?
Of that.
Yeah, so like we might get a scene in the beginning of the next episode of him
that
at
would
least
be a real
attempting
amends.
to tell the guy.
See,
But
that would be a real
the girl
amends rather
did
than just
say,
like soothing his own guilt.
Yeah, the girl did say though that it like seriously messed him up. And also the old man pointed out like something was strange about it. Like I couldn't get over it.
Well, she said it's because he doesn't know why. She said the reason he's so messed up is that he just doesn't have any answers. He doesn't know why. So maybe you're right. Maybe Bucky's there to give him answers.
To own up. Yeah.
I think so.
Own up.
Yeah.
Because if you notice, like Bucky's little hit list that he opened up on the left side of the page were all the people that he's trying to get back at, and on the right side of the page later we see it's all Yori's name is or like Nagayaki or whatever his name is. Was at the top
trying to make amends.
So yeah, he's got a page on the left for people he's got to kill, and a page on the right for people he has to make amends.
He's
with.
not in a good place psychologically. We've seen multiple examples of him already lying to his therapist. She called him out at one point and was like, "Okay, like I don't believe that. That's bullshit, whatever." But we know he's sort of lying to his therapist and to some extent lying to himself. And if he tells Free the truth, that's going to be a real amend. That's a genuine amend. That's like you own up to your own role, to the person that you hurt, rather than just I'm going to cross correct and like eliminate all these bad guys. That's not real amends. That's him like covering his own tracks or covering for his own guilt. So this is a moment of growth. This is like a potential for emotional growth for him.
But technically, Bucky is also defeated before he even begins, because this is the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We're 100% expecting at some point Bucky and Sam are going to be kicking people's ass together. So that goes against his rules. Like, if his rules are like, oh, I have to reintegrate into society, I can't just be a killing soldier, I need to be a civilian who dates people and does normal things, but then he's going to get drawn back into fighting people immediately. We know he's going to. We already know he's going to fail at these steps. So that's going to be...
This is something the show has, like, this is another thing. This is in addition to some of the other social issues that we've already discussed that are being tackled. I'm really impressed with the storyline with both Sam and Bucky. They're both veterans,
right?
Multiple things. And this is, I mean, again, this is true. Veterans are like one of the largest percentage of the homeless population in America. We do not take care of our veterans. Like they go and they fight for us for very little recompense, and they come back and we don't help them with PTSD. We don't give them enough resources. Like, they're just a very underserved population in this country. And again, something the show is tackling is that a large percentage of those folks are also people of color. And so these two are both veterans who are struggling with their own personal issues and certainly dealing with like how to be a functional civilian. Especially
the Punisher did that too. The Punisher
we've added Punisher has
show.
A similar sort of situation. What a great character too. But like, it's really something they're tackling about like these issues that veterans face with very little support, including like PTSD, reintegration, access to funding. You know, they're tackling all of these things for both Sam and Bucky in their various in their different journeys. It's
so
really,
they're dealing like with a racial storyline. They're dealing with like the veterans affairs,
social political
storyline.
Race. No, they
it's not an accident that like they're dealing with the blip and like we're dealing with a pandemic. There are certainly like
lots of real world tie-ins.
And they're not shying away from it. They're like, it's 2021. Let's go. Let's talk about these things. It's great.
It's weird timing though, but
Oh, Devontae says the old man shut the door on Bucky.
I saw that. I was gonna say that.
I have to go back and rewatch.
I'm pretty sure that's why I was left. I was like, I don't think he was gonna tell him, but I think the door did shut. I do believe.
But I mean, in general, like
I think that's gonna happen though.
Like,
I think he will eventually.
The
have to tell him the truth.
The Bucky stuff is definitely my favorite stuff right now so far. Not that the Sam stuff isn't, but I mean, it's.
I don't know what I like more. I mean, I think.
I like all of it. I don't.
I literally, I was so impressed with this episode. I'm really in love with the show so far. So.
Yeah, I am. And they've given us so many complications. Mike, we talked in our reactions about how there's like the external threat. So certainly the Flag Smashers is an external threat, potentially LAF, Batroc that might come back again. We don't know. But they've got like multiple external conflicts that are certainly going to persist through the show, but that each of them has this internal conflict as well. So in Bucky's case, like actually owning up, like actually facing his demons, dealing with his ghosts, handling his PTSD, accepting Sam's calls, whatever that is. And with Sam, they've created both the like accept your responsibility, accept the mantle of Captain America, deal with this US agent phony, and they've also created the family story, which is like what are your priorities. I love that line when his sister was like, you were fighting Captain Space Cake or whatever it is. You know? And it's like, and I was here, I was holding it down.
It's crazy to like think that, I really liked how they did like the stuff with, you know, like there's real people in this world. And they have like, you know, like they're just average civilians. And I really like seeing, you know, like I'm trying to word it correctly, like interactions and like from like real people in that universe. You know what I mean? Like reacting to those kind of events. And like the events of Avengers Endgame was like obviously this big crazy space time travel, whatever. But then to like, you know, someone I think were they in. Where did he drive down to Washington or Georgia or something?
I think Louisiana.
Louisiana. And they're like, oh yeah, whatever. It's like, you know, it's just I don't know. I really like that stuff, and like just seeing the effects of these big events on like real people. I
They
really like that
touched
stuff.
on this in WandaVision when we saw the scene where Monica wakes up, where she
Great scene.
recorporealizes in the
Mhm.
hospital, and then everything was chaos in the hospital ward. And again, we heard Hayward talking about like, you don't know what it was like when everyone just disappeared. Like, these are people, much like we are living through a cascading series of global crises right now. Like, we're all living with the pandemic and the economic collapse and all sorts of things. The people who remained had to deal with this state of emergency, with this crisis. And, you know, if you're Falcon, you understand, if you're somebody at a very high level within the Avengers or within the government, you might at least have an answer. You might know why this happened. Oh, it was Thanos. He's basically a god. He killed everybody. At least they understand like the mechanism, what went on. But for the average civilian, they have no idea that it's Thanos. They just know that all of a sudden half of the world disappeared and they had to deal. And like really seeing the human toll of that, like the non-Avengers, non-aerial sky fighting, like I just am trying to go to my job every day and feed my family kind of
Yes,
full of an
that's
event
where
on
I'm
that
getting
level.
at. Yes, you said it way better than I did.
There's a show, if you're enjoying that aspect of this storyline, a show that I would really recommend is The Leftovers, which it's this show that the basic premise is that 2.5 million people, which is basically the number of people who have like died of COVID, interestingly, but 2.5 million people are basically raptured. They just disappear and there's no explanation. And in that show, you never get an explanation. It's never answered. And that's the thing that all the characters deal with, which is like, why? We just want to know why. If we knew why this happened, maybe we could move forward. And they get like philosophers and scientists and religious experts and all of these people, and nobody can come up with any idea of like why this happened. And there's like basically a cult in the show that are called the guilty remnant. They're guilty that they weren't raptured. They feel guilty that they were left behind.
Sounds
and they take
exactly the same.
It's so similar. They take a vow of silence.
Wow.
They smoke cigarettes religiously, and they stage these happenings. I keep thinking of the Flag Smashers in relation to this, but they stage these events that are like halfway between peaceful protest and terrorism, where they basically just stand there silently and scare people. Like they stand there looking ominous, and people feel harassed and terrorized. But they won't go away. And when we see this Flag Smashers, we preferred it during the blip. We thought it was better then. I just keep thinking of the parallels. That was a completely different show. It was a very serious drama, but that's something I would recommend to folks to look at.
There's two notes from the comments. I just want to read it from the chat. So Dave Palmer says, Bucky breaks up another fight in an alley, which was funny.
Yep.
That was
totally
back to the first Avenger. And then Jossie Wang, I hope I said that right. Sorry, buddy. Zemo's name is on the left of Bucky's notes.
Yep, that's the only name I recognized on that list. Even
I noticed that.
I didn't even catch that first time watching, but
me too. And we know he's coming. We know Danielle Poole is coming back with his new mask and everything.
Oh,
and you think Zemo's name would be? You think Zemo's name would be first on that list for Bucky?
Yeah. How do you think the introduction is going to work with him? Zemo's kind of, how do you think he's going to play?
I don't know, Mike. You're right. You'd think that would be first because
you think Zemo would be first on the list,
perpetrated this horrible terrorist.
But then again, Bucky is 106 years old.
We can't. He's a lot of enemies.
We can't. There were a lot of people before Zemo in Bucky's world, so that's you got to consider that. Yeah,
that's true. Like all the shit he did for Hydra, he's also making up for all the things he did
before
he ever
that's that scene. The throwback to the the kind of, I guess, flashback to the Winter Soldier stuff. That was
it took us a minute to realize that was a flashback. We're like, why?
I thought it was gonna be a Flag Smasher scene. I thought they're gonna like infiltrate that area.
It took until we saw like the hair and the mask, and then Mike and I were both like, oh, this.
No, it was actually when he said "Hail Hydra." We're like, wait, no, like that's a flashback.
Wait.
I have heard speculation that Arnim Zola is going to appear in the show, whether it's actually Arnim Zola or if it's like the digital iteration that we saw in that bunker. Do
we think there's another backup of him? Because that was the backup of him, but is there another one? That was the
backup of him, and they destroyed the facility, but like he exists in in the cloud, right? Like in the internet.
I guess they could explain it that way, but I didn't see like a way for them to do that. But yeah, I guess. But you know, then again, it was like super old tech, and I think all the data of him was stored in that room.
Yeah,
so.
I don't know.
I don't
I mean,
know.
I don't want to go Mephisto on any of this. I have heard like multiple sources speculating that we're going to see Toby Jones as Arnim Zola.
I could see that, but I mean, there's so many villains that I don't know.
Right,
Yeah.
we've already got like LAF, the Flag Smashers, Zemo, like we've already and US Agent. We've already got like four things to deal with. Not to mention like the larger social.
Well, actually, Jenny, you mentioned Hayward really quickly, and also in terms of like the humanizing people, and like we've seen scenes of the girl Flag Smasher at the very least speaking in the trailers, not looking threatening, like seeming like a. So it's entirely possible that the Flag Smashers aren't going to be viewed as villains even at all. Come a certain point in the you don't even know that the. You know, if it's possible to humanize Hayward even for a moment, a guy who shot at children, then it's possible to humanize anybody.
They absolutely did. Like when you are in crisis, he still doesn't get a pass for shooting at children. But I completely understand that, like when you are in crisis, you do whatever comes to you in that moment. You know, in a state of emergency.
Even I've mentioned this before that even Thanos had me like questioning whether or not I thought he was a bad guy at moments where you're just like I don't disagree with what Thanos just said.
He was doing the right thing.
Yeah, he said a lot of truth.
We talked about this in the scope of WandaVision. We talked about them really.
His method of dealing with it was definitely questionable, but in general, you're like, Thanos is a pretty smart guy. Yeah.
You know, we talked in the context of WandaVision about how they really blurred the lines between who's a good guy and who's a bad guy, and you know, it's very how like even when you see people doing very, very questionable or even overtly bad things, they think they're doing it for the greater good. Like this is not a world of like black and white, good and evil. It's not, your villain is not Cruella de Vil. Your villain is like somebody who thinks they're doing something for the greater good or for the right reasons, and who is convinced themselves. And in that, I mean, when you see these organizations, maybe they've been like polluted by conspiracy theories or whatever, but they actually think they're fighting for a better world. And so like that scene when Thanos like goes to his cabin and looks out over like the beautiful sunset, like a peaceful world, that's all he wanted. You know. And so it's what we're arguing about is not like motivations or ideologies, even. We're arguing about like methods.
Well, then in that scene with the Flag Smashers, we only got one real scene with them. Like we didn't, other than the girl kicking Torres across the street, and he had tried to fight. So it didn't seem like they stole some bags of money, right? Is that what it was? They just like stole some bags of money, and then
just a robbery. Yeah,
we didn't see them kill anyone. They didn't.
Could
shoot
be money,
anyone,
could be technology. We don't know what was in the bags.
Yeah,
I mean, he did almost like crush a skull, Torres' skull at one point. But,
that's right. Yeah, well,
he stomped on.
I guess he had it coming
hard. Hard.
Christina's pointing out that Sharon Carter hasn't shown up yet.
Yeah, I think she'll be like episode 3. I don't think.
People have pointed out that it's like
we know that Zemo's coming. Like Daniel Brühl is definitely
in the
coming,
same episode,
and we know that Sharon is coming. So those two are still to be revealed.
Yeah, and we know that Sharon Carter is probably like still like fugitive status or like she's. Yep. The good guys are going to be after her to arrest her or whatever.
Right. So he helped them break the Sokovia Accords. She would have been a fugitive, but I also feel like post-blip and post-return, like all bets are off. Like I don't know.
Yeah, there was something that I do think she definitely is wanted, but yeah, to an extent, I don't know how much to an extent, but I think she's also tracking down Zemo.
Oh, that's good.
That's
maybe
where they'll
those
cross paths.
Storylines are tied together, and that's how
where I
think
those.
That makes sense.
And then that scene, it looks like it's on like a wharf of some sort with all the shipping containers.
Yeah. And she's fighting with blades, right? She's got like
she's got, I think the sticks. I think it's the stick she had. Yeah, I think that's where they're all gonna culminate. I think Zemo, Sharon Carter.
That actually makes sense narratively, because it's gonna be personal to her too. The reason she's wanted is for helping these superheroes violate the Sokovia Accords. And the Sokovia Accords only came to pass because of what Zemo did, because of his act of terrorism. So that's going to feel real personal to her.
Yeah. I'm not going to, I'm going to say episode 3-ish. I don't think it'll be episode 2, because I think episode 2 will be like Sam and Bucky finding themselves, and then they'll
getting back in touch with each other finally.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
They
What
have
if
to
they
do
just like a
that.
little text scene where they're texting each other? Hey.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's another thing that they've actually shown a bunch of times in this episode was the use of
Nightsticks. Sorry,
smartphones.
level 2 trading.
Yeah.
Nightsticks. You're right. I'm
Nightsticks,
sorry.
okay.
I
Yeah,
apologize.
Nightsticks.
You're
There's definitely a
Yes.
bunch of scenes in this episode with people using smartphones, and so that's like you said, they're appealing to Gen Z and showing a lot of Gen Z things. Jenny, you said there's at least like the guy in the
Gen Z.
bank does like a selfie. He talks about, can I take a selfie with you? Torres at one point is like looking at like a live stream or something when the Flag Smasher
Yeah.
symbol appears
Yeah,
on
he
his
was like
phone,
live streaming.
and he's kind of like, I
Yeah,
think
I
he's,
was
he's doing
wondering
a live
about
stream.
that app. I was really actually curious. He was using some kind of app to like find the meeting, or I don't know. I'm curious.
I think he
about,
was
like,
just
what
because
the
he was
app
speaking
was.
into his phone. He was like, "Oh, we're doing this thing in Tunisia or whatever," and then the Flag Smasher thing appeared, and he was like, "Oh, look, they're on my stream. Like, this is who we're after."
Jay Black, I do think that is a hint at that character.
Yeah, there's some kind of like little hint
Yes.
there, and then Devontae's talking about Madripoor, which we also
Madripoor.
seen like images from the
Madripoor.
trailers of this like sort of Gotham in neon,
Yeah. It's gonna be
seedy,
really cool looking.
dirty looking place, and this is a big thing in the comics, and I'm so excited to see how
It's
they
a
achieve
mutants.
that
It's a
visually.
mutant hotspot.
Yeah,
Not to
it's like
bring
a
it back,
mutant.
but
So I'm like visually, especially, I'm so excited to see like how
Yeah.
they depict that and what it
Mhm.
looks
Yeah.
like.
I don't think it'll have anything to do with the mutants, but there is one line that someone pointed out in my
Jossie Wang
reaction.
pointed out that Bucky uses a flip phone. That's a funny detail.
Yes,
just to
he
make,
did. Yeah,
just to make
yeah.
him seem extra out of touch with technology.
He did.
So like our
Yeah.
mom, Mike and I, our actual mom, she still uses a flip phone,
Yeah.
and she like
Yeah,
hardcore
'cause
uses
The
to get a
psychiatrist
smartphone.
like flips it closed and throws it back to him. Yeah.
But I love
Yeah,
that like
that's right.
that goes right along with his like I can't deal with the online dating, and then he brings flowers to the date. He's like old
Love that.
school.
Yeah.
They said something about like I can't remember what the reference was, but he said like I haven't been dancing since
No.
1943 or something.
When the
like
old man was like, he basically just like arranged the date for them like out of nowhere, and he was like, "Dude, there's a dance in this. You gotta do it the right way or whatever." And he's like, "I haven't danced since 1940."
1943.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
this might literally be the first time he's been on a date since 1943.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
it
but
is.
as you saw,
And he was a young guy then without a ton of experience.
well,
So,
remember in
like,
the
this
first
poor dude-
Captain America movie, Bucky didn't need any help getting
No, he
attention
had,
from
like, a
women.
girl
No,
on
I was
each
gonna
arm.
say he was a stud.
Yeah,
He was a
yeah,
stud.
and
But like, I mean, this dude has been ravaged by every possible trauma, and it's the
Right.
40s last
Yeah.
time he was a
well,
ladies' man.
yeah, well, the old man like offered him up on a
Yeah,
date,
that's
and
weird.
the
That's weird to
bartender
think
was
about.
like, "No, I'm game. I'll go on a date with this guy." Yeah,
She was
like
so
she was.
cool. She was so cool. I love that.
Yeah,
So
and
it's
she was
not
like,
a
"Why you
matter of
wearing-
him
why you
getting a
wearing
date.
gloves?"
It's
And,
just
like,
having a connection with the person because immediately every question she asked like got him further
It's like
more
the
awkward.
simplest small talk. She's asking like real
You got
basic
family?
101. You
yeah,
got
why
They're all
wearing
dead.
gloves?
But like,
Yeah.
how do you have small talk when you are like we talked about this, Mike, in our reaction? But like when you are 106 years old, bionic arm wearing, former super soldier, brainwashed
And an
assassin, like
Avenger.
you're involved in all of this crazy stuff. Like, what do you have small talk about? What seems remotely worth having a conversation about at that point?
Mhm.
Like, how do you date when you're?
That's
an
where
Avenger?
I go back to thinking about because Bucky's supposed to be figuring all of this out, but we know for a fact that he's not. He's going to be fighting. He's going to be joining with Sam and fighting bad guys like any minute. So like the storyline of Bucky like never getting a break and always having to go back to fighting is just going to continue, and we know that that's going to happen.
Yeah.
So to what degree is like Bucky's storyline going to be like him trying to deal with that? Like, are we going to see Bucky like give up fighting entirely at some point, or is he just gonna like reconcile? Like, I have no choice.
Yeah.
I'm a soldier and I'll always be one, and
It's a good
nothing's going to
point.
change for him, and that seems a little unfair to him as a character, right?
Right.
We're already being like, oh man, that sucks. He's had like 90 straight years of just fighting other people's battles, and like literally he said I had a moment of calm. A lot of people in the comments pointed out that I was way off when my first
Yeah, I
thought was,
think he was just talking about hanging out in that cabin. Surely.
Yeah, we're
Like,
sure he just okay. So like at first I was like, oh, he's talking like I got dusted.
What was the line?
He said like I had a moment of calm in Wakanda, but other than that, like I've gone from like battle fight to fight to
Yes.
fight for 90 years. And my thought was like, oh, he's referring to like he got dusted, and so he literally got to like take a break for like a minute because he died.
No, I think he was just. I
But
mean, like
then-
for him, Wakanda was like the only time he
Yeah.
wasn't involved in
Yeah.
this world. He was literally like living in a grass hut.
Yeah,
in-
that's
Yeah,
also
that
the first time we
incredible.
see him
Like-
smile too. Is in Wakanda. He's literally just that like frowning, like depressed looking Winter Soldier for the
Right.
entire like first 2 Captain America movies, and then eventually in Civil War. Where is it where you see Bucky in Wakanda? That's
That's
Endgame?
the
It was an end
scene
credit
of-
sequence.
Well,
of-
Civil War is where he first got there, but then when we saw him in that hut was, oh god,
I'm gonna forget. I'm gonna get it. Somebody in the comments can probably tell us, but it was an end credit or like a mid credit sequence where we saw him. Or was it was a credit
movie.
sequence.
Oh,
of some
obviously it was
kind.
before Infinity War. So
Yeah. It must have been in somebody else's post Black Panther.
Yeah. Another thing
that
I'm
was
actually
it. That was it.
another thing I'm
Black
wondering
Panther.
about is
Black Panther.
And was it at the end of Black Panther?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
You know, obviously it has to be something after we know what Wakanda is and like where, you know, but
Yes.
that's what I think he meant was like
Yep,
he actually
in
just
Black
got to take a break from this
Yeah.
super soldiering that has been his entire adult
I wonder
life.
if he will retire. I'm starting to think that. Yeah.
yeah.
I
mean,
think
Sammy
maybe be one
Steve
last,
Rogers
like,
gets to like go back and live an entire second life with his
Yeah.
girlfriend.
Right.
Like
think
so,
it's
like
gonna
what
be
does
that,
Bucky
but-
get? Like what is I mean
maybe
obviously
they'll get him together with Sharon because
yeah.
not only does that like throw him a bone, but it also eliminates the need for like stupid small talk because she already knows all his business.
Yeah.
That's like if you are in this situation with all this weird supernatural stuff going on,
Yeah.
you really have to get together with somebody who's also in that world, or else like how do you find common ground?
I said this in
Well,
our
I don't know.
stream
I
last
think
week.
he'll be like Hawkeye, kind of how he retired from.
yeah, Hawkeye
from,
like
Age
lives
of
in the
Ultron
country
and
with his
lives- yeah.
family.
Yeah.
I think
I
it'll be
Has a
something
whole
like
separate
that.
life.
I said it last week about how like they don't shy away from like pairing people up like romantically in Marvel. Like they don't force it, but like
Yeah.
Sebastian Stan is a stud, and it would be ridiculous for him to not end up in a romantic relationship with someone. So
Oh,
they've
let's be
already
honest,
that
we all
if
want to
you,
see him like making
in
out
this
with a hot
in this
person.
episode they've already made a point to be like dating is this like topic
Right.
for Bucky.
Yeah, I
and,
know.
like
He'll definitely. I
Right.
think he'll be with someone for sure.
I think
Yeah.
yeah, they're
there was
gonna
this thing where Anthony Mackie wanted to. He's really pushing for Sam and Black Widow to have a relationship in the movies. I don't know if any of you saw that article, but
Anthony Mackie wanted that.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's so funny. Yeah, it's just
Okay, good for
he's
him.
he's pushing for
That's
that
not gonna
So
happen.
one
but-
thing I'm wondering is that we've seen in the trailers, and previews that psychiatrist that Bucky is working with, she ends up doing like a couples therapy with Sam and Bucky. So like,
Yeah, it's the
why
same
does
one, right?
Sam end up in therapy too? Is what I'm
It is
wondering.
the same one. It's the
Is it
same
just because of like they're dysfunctional, like they put them together and then something dysfunctional happens?
We're gonna
Because she's
find
pointed out
out.
that like a condition of his pardon is that he has to do this stuff. He has to do the steps. He has to go to the therapy. He has to prove to her that he's following the steps or whatever. So that's like I said, Steve Rogers gets to like go back and like live a whole second life with his girlfriend, but Bucky, we're supposed to be like, oh, he's been a criminal the whole time. So it's a little different for him because he's lucky just for the fact that they didn't put him in jail for
Yeah.
murdering all those people, even though he was, under mind control or whatever. So I mean, at the same time, we want Bucky to have a happy ending.
Yeah, that
But-
is a bit of a surprise that they're even letting him be a civilian, like the
Yeah.
same government that's creating US agent and in the wake of the blip and all this, it is a bit surprising that they're just like, okay, go live your life. Like it's
Also,
so-
though, like I know that it's really important for Marvel to like establish like the new crew of characters, the new superheroes. There's even a specific line when Sam is honoring Captain where he's like, we need new heroes that like deal with today's problems, that
New
deal with
Avengers,
like
baby.
so like obviously it's a big thing for Marvel to get the show on the road in terms of getting new characters and like out with the old and in with the new, but at the same time you do still need some of that old in there to keep things together, to keep
Yeah,
people
I think they have a good balance. of-
yeah, and
that's
I,
why, like we talked about, like
saying
Sam and
Bucky is going to retire is like, oh, then that's one less old
Right.
character
I
that
think
we're going to
he might.
have.
I mean, I think there's still.
And Sebastian
there's still
Stan
a
is still
bunch.
like,
Well,
like
we have like elder statesmen. Like Rhodey is what I would call an elder statesman. Like he's getting older, But like
Yeah.
he is the generation of like Tony
In
Stark.
terms of like
Steve
being in the
Rogers.
fight, though, being
As
like
well as
front
Paul
lines in
Bettany,
the fight.
Vision. So
Being in the fight, they're elevating some people who have previously been sidekicks. So
Yeah.
in this case, Sam and Bucky, who are both Steve Rogers sidekicks, they're elevating them to like leading man
So
status.
like, I mean, like we know
But
we're
also we're
getting
gonna get new
and
characters.
Vision
And
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Like we're
And
gonna get like new characters
Hawkeye.
joining some of these legacy.
yeah, Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange.
Yeah, yeah.
So we're
And,
Spider-Man.
elevating
I guess I don't know
like
where Spider-Man really
sidekicks to
falls
larger
in, but
roles, and then we're also getting new blood in
and then
this
presumably
franchise.
Hulk too, if Hulk is involved.
Yeah,
in some
yeah,
way,
I don't-
and Captain Marvel.
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
there's. I know.
No,
but, I don't
She-Hulk,
even.
but-
I don't even
Yeah.
think of Captain Marvel as like an old. I think of her as new, even because we got.
Yeah, I
one-
think more the
Because
realm
the
of
movie
Spider-Man. I
came
think.
later, but like she's
Yeah.
actually
Oh, she
one
guess
of
yeah,
the
she's one of the first,
older-
I guess.
Timeline wise, yeah, she's like.
timeline
like,
wise, she's
yeah,
older
but-
than anybody except Steve, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like,
Hmm.
or Buck. But you know, the movie came out so recently that it feels like she's a newer. And there is a Captain Marvel 2 coming. Like we know that
Yes.
film is coming. So,
Yeah.
I heard. I don't remember if this was speculation or if it was confirmed. I cannot remember, but I read that like Mark Ruffalo is going to have a scene in She-Hulk somewhere.
Oh,
I
just a
again,
scene?
I cannot remember if that
I
was
can't imagine they would do a Hulk
confirmed
related
or
movie
not, but,
without
like,
having Hulk.
I heard he makes an appearance in She-Hulk.
Yeah, no, he's gonna make an appearance.
Yeah,
I
in the
didn't know
comics they're
just
not
one scene.
related. They're not like brother and sister. They're
But they would have had to go through the same kind of
They're
like
cousins.
gamma
Yeah.
therapy or something,
Yeah.
right? If she's experiencing, and we know for a fact that Tim Roth is coming back as Abomination, which
Yeah.
is a nod to like the much earlier, like what was that, 2009 Hulk movie.
Mhm.
So I'm sorry.
Um,
Did you say that it's just a scene?
I don't know. I
Okay.
read, and again, I wish I could remember the context or where I read it. I read a lot, so I don't remember like which publication this was, but that it was saying yes, Mark Ruffalo will make an appearance,
Yeah.
whatever that means,
Yeah.
in
he's gonna-
She-Hulk.
Okay.
So cool. We're you
Yeah,
know
I'm,
we're
I'm
waiting.
excited for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
When is that? When is? I think it's probably
I don't.
next year.
We can
Next year,
we can
I think.
look this up on Wikipedia, but yeah, it's
Yeah.
coming later down the
Next
line.
year.
We've
I
got
saw that they had that entire like dramatic like reveal thing that they did with Owen Wilson and Tom Hiddleston
Tom
for
Hiddleston, and
the
they
just
did
a
one
poster.
for Hawkeye
It's just a
too.
it's just a poster for
Different
Loki, and they made it this
Yeah.
big dramatic like reveal.
well, and then there was another one this week, which has Loki in like a prison jumpsuit and a monitoring collar, an electric collar,
Yeah, that
but
was
like
that was.
still looking like
I'm
his evil self.
I'm honestly surprised like Owen Wilson hasn't like made his way into Marvel at this until
Yeah,
now.
like name another actor.
There's a lot of
that hasn't
actors
already
that I'm shocked haven't.
appeared.
There's a lot of actors.
Yeah, well, I mean, like we were talking about
Right.
how Christian Bale is going to be Gore the Godslayer, right?
Oh, right.
Yes.
And we
And that's
don't
gonna
know if
be
it's
in-
going to
Completely
be
forgot
like
about that.
Bale himself or it's going to be CGI like Thanos.
Yeah.
We don't.
Yeah,
Either
it's way
one,
More
I-
a Thanos deal.
I
We
would
don't know
rather
yet,
it be actual Christian Bale, honestly.
I mean, honestly,
You think
Christian
so?
Bale
But
is like the most.
prosthetics or CGI? I think it's
I
gonna
don't
be.
know because I don't really know
CGI
much about
Thanos
Gore the
level. That's what
Godslayer.
I
He's
think.
he's like a relatively new. Like I didn't even really
Yeah.
know about him until
We
I
had to
started
Google
reading
it. We
about
had to
it.
look it up because he's like a
Neither did I,
recently
yeah.
new addition to the comics.
Yeah,
Actually,
he first came out in
Yes.
like the '90s, right, or even
Um,
sooner.
but like, I would love to see it be actually Christian Bale, just because he's probably the most physically versatile actor in
Mhm.
Hollywood. I mean, he has like
Oh yeah. Okay.
gained 40 pounds, lost 40 pounds, like
Right.
bulked, like he changes his body like this magical.
So you think it'll be
creature to be in different
prosthetics and like
roles.
makeup and stuff?
So I'd be really interested to see what he could bring. We looked at the pictures of this guy who's kind of this like long, scrawny, lanky guy, and I was like, is that actually going to be?
Yeah, he looks like Ebony Maw a little bit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I had that
I was
same
wondering
reaction.
if I was wondering if he'll be
without the like
prosthetic or-
zombie.
Right, without the
Yeah.
scary
Yeah,
face,
yeah.
but
Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
no, I don't know if he'll be. Yeah, I think I mean, obviously you just said Bale's a pretty physical actor, so I wonder if it'll be prosthetic or CGI. But
well, not only physical, but like physically versatile. He's willing to do
Yes.
extreme things to his own
Right.
body. Like he did this one movie where he played an insomniac who hadn't
Yeah.
slept in a year, and he got like
Almost killed
cancer
himself
patient
losing weight.
thin,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
to play this character. But then like he did, what was that movie where he and McConaughey
Rain
fought
of Fire.
dragons?
Rain of Fire.
Rain of
yeah.
Fire, and they both like
He got
physically
huge.
bulked
Yeah.
up. He played Dick Cheney and he gained like 40 or 50 pounds or something. I mean, obviously he was also wearing prosthetics, but he did definitely like develop a organic haunch to play that character. He's willing to go to like ridiculous extremes with his own actual body. So I'd be very curious to see like what he could bring to this role.
Thor is next year. We already talked last week about how we've seen Natalie Portman got jacked.
Daniel Day-Lewis is a retired actor, by the way. Someone just
technically he retired, and then he keeps technically retiring.
And everybody keeps wishing for the Sue Storm and Reed Richards to be what's her name?
John Krasinski.
John Krasinski and Emily Blunt.
Emily Blunt.
I want that.
It works for me. I don't see anything wrong with that.
I have no issue with that.
I would like her way more than fucking Jessica Alba.
Oh, than Jessica Alba. Yeah.
Who does not convince me that she's like a genetic scientist. Like
no,
Emily Blunt could easily do that with
Blunt
the accent alone. She's
and she's worked with Disney, so she's close to
believably
Disney.
a nerd.
I do really like
appeal.
both of those actors, and they do have their real life relationship, which is cute.
Although I did see an article recently rumoring what's her name, Jennifer Lawrence as Sue Storm,
that happened like a month. That happened a couple months ago. Then it resurfaced again. I don't know why. I don't know what changed.
I mean, she was already Mystique in Fox, right? So it's
I don't know if she'll do it again.
Franchise, she was such a significant character in that.
I don't want to go back into the Evan Peters situation and the whole. I don't want to start talking about that again. But
please no.
No, it's one of those things where without even worrying about what is official and what's canon and what isn't, like forget about that for a moment. It would be ill-advised, I think, from just like a marketing standpoint for them to mess with things that are already in people's headcanon.
Yeah.
They like, even if some of the Marvel television shows, same thing, even if like they're not official.
Not even though, because we pointed out how that
it wouldn't be to Feige's benefit to mess with those storylines.
I don't know. We were ready for it.
Because people are so attached to them, you know?
Evan Peters showed up and, obviously they ended up being the boner joke or whatever, but we were ready for it. We were ready to be like, bring on all this X-Men.
It wasn't even they teased it. They did it.
The other thing, though, is that, like, for instance, Deadpool 3 is already happening. Like, that's a film that's happening, and that's from X-Men. Yes, and, like, those have been exported from the X-Men franchise with existing actors. So that doesn't automatically canonize everything. How could you? Because the X-Men timeline didn't exist. It was so like
but then I feel like even
that
Fox
doesn't bring
X-Men
everything in. But we know for a fact that we're meeting at least a couple characters that already existed.
Well, characters, but
the same actors. Like Ryan Reynolds is still playing Deadpool.
Oh,
like,
sure.
Yes. Like Deadpool.
That
3
wasn't
was part
Deadpool.
Of
that wasn't Deadpool. No one would.
Deadpool.
The one that Ryan Reynolds originally.
Wolverine.
No,
I thought he was
like
gonna be
the actual Deadpool. No, everybody
Deadpool
hated that. That was terrible. Yeah. They even made a joke about that at the end of Deadpool 2, where he breaks his timelines.
I didn't even know that was supposed to be Deadpool until after the movie and somebody mentioned it, and I was like, "What? That's not Deadpool."
Really? I haven't.
He was like shirtless with no mouth, and
it was. There were so many problems with that, but like the actual Deadpool movies, Deadpool 1 and 2, we're still technically contiguous with the X-Men franchise. Like he had Negasonic Teenage Warhead and Colossus.
They had the X-Men cast in a quick cameo, like the whole X-Men cast while he was in the X-Men.
Like there's just that was
even Evan Peters, right? Evan Peters shows up briefly in that.
So that was supposed to be.
Don't say his name.
I know.
Like part of the X-Men franchise, and we know that Reynolds is coming back. That Deadpool 3 is happening. So
I can't wait. Yeah. Oh my god, I'm picturing
Deadpool and Spider-Man. That's what I want.
Dude, Deadpool and anybody. Think about Deadpool, Thor, and Quill. Put
That's
those.
What I want to see. We've already had this hilarious interaction between Pratt and Hemsworth.
I feel like Thor and Quill are already like busting each other's balls.
Yeah,
even though it's
Thor and Deadpool would be great.
Ryan Reynolds would just make them. Yeah, he would put them both to shame.
Can you imagine Hemsworth, Pratt, and Ryan Reynolds like in one room just improvising snark at each other?
Yeah,
like really I want to see that.
Those are probably like the most comedically inclined. Like I feel like Chris Hemsworth is
too. Chris Hemsworth is really funny. Chris Hemsworth is like gifted.
I think Chris Hemsworth's his comedic timing is like perfect, and also Chris Pratt is pretty good.
Pratt,
one of my favorite scenes in like any Avengers in any MCU movie ever is the scene where they're in like what is it called? Jeff Goldblum's kingdom.
Oh yeah, Sakaar.
Sakaar, and he tells the story about Loki and the snake. He's like, He transformed himself into a snake. He was like, "That's me."
Yeah.
It was a completely improvised scene. Like that's just Chris
Yeah, that was
Hemsworth
improvised.
just
Yep.
being like,
Yeah, you're
I'm-
right.
he's so,
Oh, wait a
he's
minute.
well known for being like a beefcake, but he's so funny.
Jeff Goldblum's character supposed to be like the brother of Gore the Godslayer?
Goldblum is coming back at some point.
He's Gore the Godslayer's brother, right?
In the comics,
Is
it's the Grandmaster and the Collector are brothers.
Oh, the Collector. That's it.
Yeah.
But the
So
Collector's
Benicio
dead now.
del Toro.
Right,
and Jeff
Benicio del
Goldblum.
Toro. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I was actually a little in Infinity War. I got a little bit confused in that Reality Stone scene. In the Collector's place where they go, and then like Thanos is already there, but he made it seem like he wasn't there, and then the Collector's alive, but then you see that I got a little confused. But I've watched it again, and I think it's just supposed to mean that like Thanos showed up, killed the Collector, changed reality to make it look like he was still alive, and then revealed himself afterwards, right? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
So the Collector is very much dead. Thanos killed him.
Right.
Yeah.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah.
So
So
it
we're
would
not
have been
seeing
cool to maybe see like an interaction between them, but I mean,
we're not going to
doesn't
see
bother me too much.
Benicio del Toro again, but Jeff Goldblum
Right.
is definitely going to be coming back, right? You said, Jen, yeah.
I think
He was so
is he on the
good.
cast list for Thor? I don't know if he's on the. I'm pretty sure he's gonna.
I've heard that he is coming back. I don't know in what
Level 2
project or
training.
what property, but I've heard he's coming back.
The two are trying to get lower voice is the best part of me.
It's so good.
This is how I
This is
speak.
just how I talk.
This is my voice. Yeah. Yeah.
No, they're definitely both like uniquely talented
And
comedic actors.
I would
so-
have loved, because I know in real life Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman have like a real life relationship, busting balls relationship with each other. So like
And Jake Gyllenhaal.
we're not going to get Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, but that would have been great to have.
He's done. He's done.
Because they had in Deadpool, it literally is the Fox Wolverine face mask that he puts on, and it's so Hugh Jackman has appeared in MCU technically because of Deadpool, right?
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's confusing because in Deadpool 2, there is the whole X-Men cast is in a cameo in Deadpool 2.
Yeah.
So I don't know if Deadpool 3 is going to be a.
Yeah, it's hard to use
Multiverse
Deadpool as like a
situation where
ruler
he's
for
gonna
measuring
jump.
these things.
Yeah,
though,
because
'cause-
Yeah, I
the
don't
whole
know.
point of that is that he sort of, I don't know, Deadpool sort of inhabits this other plane where he's both in the comics and in
fourth
the
wall
film,
break inside of
where
a
he's able
fourth
to
wall
break
break.
Deadpool 1 though, in
and
Deadpool
speak to
1,
the
it looks
audience
like
and-
the final battle is on a helicarrier, and I mean, like it's a helicarrier, but they don't say it's a helicarrier, so it's like,
Right, you're right. When his girlfriend is being held hostage and whatever.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
on
you mean like a Nick Fury shield
Like a Nick
style?
Fury, yeah.
Yeah, they didn't say it was a
Helicarrier.
helicarrier, but
That certainly was what it looked like. to me.
100%. Yeah.
yeah. So I think that was more like leaving the door open for maybe a transfer,
Yeah.
but I don't know, but yeah, no.
Yeah.
There's so many interactions that I would love to see with
Again, I don't want to
with
freak
Deadpool.
out about like what is or isn't canon, but one of the real beauties of Deadpool,
is he can do
again,
he
both
can
in the comics
jump
and in the
anywhere
films, is
do
that
whatever.
he inhabits his own sort of plane of existence
Yep.
where he can speak to us directly and comment on himself and on his own role. He's aware that he's a character in a story.
Yes.
He's aware, he's aware that there's a larger narrative guiding him, and he.
And whilst we saw actually it was just Billy, I think. Billy in WandaVision and also
Malcolm
Wanda.
the
There were a
Middle
couple of
thing,
fourth wall
right?
breaks, but that was because it was like specifically under like a sitcom style. They're talking to an audience, but it's like a, inside
I
of a sitcom.
think it was more to like Agatha. I think that was more.
Yeah,
the-
exactly. And then we see that Agatha's actually sitting in a director's chair kind of thing. So they are technically physically speaking to someone but in Deadpool, it's specifically, he's talking to us. He's talking to the audience.
Yeah, he's talking to
it's
us.
a real fourth wall break. And that's a
I
different
wanna
thing
watch those
altogether.
movies. Those movies
I
are
know.
great. Oh yeah, and the whole thing. I was thinking about. So okay, I don't know if we want to go down this too much, but the Deadpool thing is interesting because there's so many characters in those movies already. So what characters will they transfer over? For instance, Cable, Josh Brolin.
Right. Josh Brolin was
Will they
great
do
as
that?
Cable.
He was fantastic, so I would totally be okay with.
Yeah, and Jenny, you said
them
he was.
moving
Doors
it, but-
open.
Yeah, he was only
and Domino,
CGI.
and I don't.
She's one of my favorite characters.
She's
I have
great.
mentioned before, I haven't read a ton of books, but like amongst the books that I have read are Domino's books. Like I followed her story. They didn't really tell us anything about her or her backstory. She made a very brief appearance as part of like Deadpool's mismatched team, like his X-Force, but they were like his mismatched team of incompetent superheroes. And she was the only one that survived because she has luck on her side. So I really hope that she comes back. And that's Zazie Beetz is an amazing, like multilingual, international actress. She's got so many skills, and I would love to see that character come back in some
Yeah.
capacity.
Yeah. So I don't know what characters they'll throw over, but I mean, definitely, obviously Deadpool for sure. But I just I don't know how much of the supporting cast.
Well, they had made that joke about how
interesting
like
to see.
like Colossus and Negasonic are these two like lesser known characters that are like these are the only ones you could afford
Colossus
on
is
your
pretty
budget.
They're like, we
well-known,
couldn't
yeah.
afford any
Well,
other.
yeah, he-
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're saying in the joke in the movie.
So I just feel like they're automatically going to bring those two, Colossus and
Maybe. We'll see.
Yeah,
I
but I
mean,
feel
like,
like
I think we don't
they're
know.
putting Cable and Dom. I don't know. There's a lot.
I think that the thing
Yeah.
is that like those movies, again, in terms of continuity and universe, are such a complete mess. I think the fact that like Marvel now has the rights, that Disney has the rights to these Fox characters, it opens the door to bring some of these people back.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they've even made all of these decisions yet, let alone like it's probably not worth us speculating about who's
They're
gonna
probably
appear.
figuring it out right now, I'd say.
But
yeah.
I mean, there are definitely some great characters in there whose storylines were left open, so that there's a possibility that they might come back. They might come in to play down the road.
All right, guys, let's begin to wrap this stream up a little bit. Falcon, we'll go back to Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We obviously
let's
digressed
bring
there
it
for
back.
a
Yeah.
while. It's so
Deadpool
easy.
digression.
But yeah, in general, we all agree that Sam and Bucky need to meet in the next episode because, like,
Yeah.
if they don't, like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Sharon
Let's
Carter.
do U.S. Agent really quick. Do you want to talk about that for like? a
Yeah.
couple
If you want to
seconds?
talk about
Yeah, why
US
don't you
Agent.
tell us a bit about US Agent?
Yeah, so I mean, they basically so far have followed the comics where he kind of takes over after in the comics the disappearance of Steve, but in this it's like I guess it's a disappearance, but death, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, so obviously we saw him for like a mere couple seconds, but I think he's the new Cap, and he's gonna be very commercialized, so I think they're gonna get into that stuff too with like how
Merchandise.
yeah
Yeah.
but it's funny because it's Disney, but if you really think about it, but
That's true.
yeah,
But Steve Rogers had his own fair share of that, like the whole punching
he
Hitler,
did.
and
He
it's
did,
a different,
for sure.
it's 40s propaganda and stuff like that, and
right.
but that museum had like the Captain America comic books and
Yeah.
it
The
had all
whole
that
Uncle
stuff.
Sam thing, like
Yeah.
that, they're basically embodying Uncle Sam.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And Sam is literally an Uncle Sam.
Uncle
You
Sam,
have to
yeah,
be like, there's only
that
one
was-
Uncle Sam.
I-
It's me.
It was like oh, okay, like come on, but I
Come
like
on, guys, we got it.
Yeah, it's like
Get
come
it.
on, yeah. No, I thought that was pretty funny though, but yeah, he's gonna be cool. I mean, there's gonna be I brought up the corporate thing because there's gonna be this scene at like a football field or some kind of rally, and he's gonna be I wonder if it'll be like US Agent touring the states. Started to think about that. I wonder if he's gonna go on like a worldwide Captain America
because
tour.
it did seem like they were less concerned with like actually having somebody protect Earth and more concerned with
And
like,
more
just
having a
having
figure.
that figure for them
Yeah.
to
Well,
shop
that's
around.
how Steve began. He was doing like a USO tour, right? He had
Right.
like, the
Yeah, you're
dancing
right, you're
girls
right,
and the
you're right.
leotard.
They were even like, bring
And
the
it was
girls back.
You're
right.
right.
And it was
Yeah.
this ridiculous. And he actually had to fight to become the hero he knew, to be all that he could be. To like,
Yeah, I think
literally.
I think there's gonna be a lot of
So-
parallels between him and Cap from the first Avenger, but then John Walker's just not gonna be able to handle it opposed to
Yeah.
Steve, and he's not gonna have like
Mhm.
the
So do we want it to be then that like by
sacrifice
the end of this, like John Walker is actually like fighting on our side, like he's gone through his whatever problems happen, or do you think it's gonna end ugly for him?
Well, I mean, going back to that set footage thing where he's just smashing someone's head in with the
Yeah.
shield,
Mhm.
it kind of seems like it's just gonna break and not come back.
Yeah.
from
So
that,
do we know,
so
do we have any
don't
notion
know,
from the comics? I don't know the answer to this. Do we have any notion from the comics if he's enhanced? Has he been given super soldier serum, or
Yeah.
is he just an
He
actor?
yeah.
He has. So he
Yeah.
is like capable of
Well,
fighting.
they
yeah,
they
so
haven't
that's
mentioned it yet in Falcon and the
Not
Winter
yet,
Soldier,
but yes,
but
there's definitely. I mean, we know there's just gonna be a new serum.
the
There's
Flag
something with the
Smashers are
serum. The
enhanced.
Flag Smashers, yeah, and
Yeah.
whoever, if there is an Isaiah Bradley in the show,
Yeah.
Right.
so-
It seems like that might be coming.
for sure. Yeah.
Okay. So there's like, it's very interesting because with Cap, like they gave him the super soldier serum.
Super
and then-
soldier serum.
And then they just put him on stage with a bunch of Rockettes. Like they were not, they were squandering the resource they had. They created a super soldier and then didn't use him as one. And it was sort of on him to become that character. So there might be like a really interesting parallel here. If this guy's not just an actor, not just some like hokey symbol, then
Then
Super
there's
Soldier
also
Serum's messy stuff. You can become Steve Rogers or you can become Red Skull.
Yeah.
Like
there's also Jenny that the whole story of like in the original Captain America that like there were like any number of like macho ready to go dudes that they could have used, and Stanley Tucci like specifically wanted Steve Rogers because of his attitude and because of his heart and because of like him and there's that whole scene of him jumping on the grenade to be like, everyone get down or whatever. And it's like, there you go. There's your Captain America right there. And then that is already missing from the, like, they're just putting some stud in a costume. It's not Captain America.
And
just
that's the crucial difference between him and Red Skull. Is like Red Skull was already bad and already nefarious, and Steve was selfless even when he was the little guy.
Oh, yeah. Wait a minute. Red Skull. We didn't talk about, is that potentially something that we're... Because he's alive in
Endgame. I really want it, but
he's on the planet with the Soul Stone.
He's on the Soul Stone planet.
Yeah.
The wasted planet.
We don't know that because now he has the freedom to move off planet. So
I guess, I am myself.
What's
very
that actor's
confused
name?
About, like,
Agent
Hugo
Smith.
Weaving.
Hugo Weaving, yeah.
Hugo Weaving, amazing Australian actor.
Yeah,
he's great.
From The Matrix and Lord of the Rings.
I didn't know that, actually.
He is Australian. He's from The Matrix. He's from Lord of the Rings.
Right. Yeah.
He was in Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. He's been in everything.
Hugo's been in a lot of things, but the Red Skull thing. I mean, I want it so badly. Like the whole thing in Infinity War. That was a shock.
Like you said, we've already got like 5 villains though. We've got Zemo.
Yeah, we've got Zemo. We've got like LAF. We've got Flag Smashers. We've got US Agents.
We've got the guy at the bank. Motherfucker.
The guy at the bank, the biggest villain of all.
Yeah. What a douche.
The hell with him. What a dickhead.
No, I mean maybe a tease at something like an end credit scene. But I don't.
Hey Jeff Miller, thanks for the comment, man. Appreciate
it. Jeff Miller.
Yeah, okay, so we've been going on an hour and 20 minutes now. We're going to wrap the stream up. We don't want to kill too much Falcon Winter Soldier talk and have nothing to talk about next week. I'm sure we're going to have plenty to talk about.
We can talk about this all day, but we've got 6 weeks. So.
And I'm already looking forward to it. And I love how WandaVision was 9 episodes and, it worked out the way it did. And this is going to be 6 episodes, but clearly we already know they're going to be longer episodes and they have a lot more time to slow things down and give us that meat that is so... that we love, dude. I mean, the action is great. The opening scene was amazing. We're gonna definitely get more of that. Hopefully, they didn't blow their entire budget just on that.
No.
Because I know they got like 25 mil per episode.
They got a budget,
show, right? Yeah, that's
they've got enough money to do whatever.
So we're gonna get more crazy action. Hope specifically out of Falcon like that, and then everything that, like I was saying with Bucky and his psychiatrist, and like right now the Bucky stuff is what I'm most interested in, and I'm most looking forward to seeing how that pans out. And who was it that said?
Her, by the way, that actress was named Amy Aquino. I once sat next to her at dinner, and she's like the nicest.
She was in Star Wars too, right, John? She was the nurse.
She is such a good actress.
The therapist.
Yeah, she wasn't. She
that
was
the
nurse
same lady
from Force Awakens, right?
I didn't. I know you're talking about.
Yeah, she's
really?
got like Chewie got like shot in the arm, and she's like, "You must be very brave."
Everything. I love her, but
really, I had no idea.
I once sat between her and her husband at a dinner party, and they're both like the nicest people I've ever met. So I'm generically a fan, but she's one of those people that I get really excited to see because I think she's so good.
And Level 2 Trading said if Bucky falls for Sharon, I'll just die. We mentioned last week that we've heard that Bucky and Sharon do hook up, and that actually
we think that
causes a problem with Sam because Sam doesn't approve of it. But like we've all pointed out, it's already like incestuous to begin with because of that's Peggy Carter's great grandniece, grandniece,
her grandniece.
Yeah,
I think it's her grandniece.
But come on, Steve Rogers hadn't gotten any play in like 60 years, 70 years, dude. Come on, let the guy get a little...
Bucky too, and like 90. I don't know.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a while.
Yeah. You can't control those urges sometimes. Yeah. Anyway, great stream, guys. Nice. Thanks for joining me. Guys, thanks for everybody that's been here. Jossie, Hustle Mando, Devontae, Level 2, Jeffrey, all you guys.
True.
Thanks. Yeah.
Christina,
you guys have been coming back every week. We really appreciate it. We're going to try and keep this going. Originally, we were just kind of hoping we could maybe do this once in a while, but
Marvel we were doing this every weekend.
Marvel has gotten our appetite stimulated, and
we need
I'm
a
hungry
space to nerd out weekly.
So thanks everybody for coming and joining, and hopefully we got a lot more to talk about next week, and we'll be back.
Sure.
Right?
We will. Yep.
All right,
Thank you,
everybody.
everybody.
Guys.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
See you, everybody.
Bye.